A flash of silver on a homeless girl's wrist makes his breath hitch. The same bracelet buried with her 7 years ago. Caspian stumbles backward, heart racing, body trembling. That was something impossible. A billionaire spots a homeless girl wearing the bracelet buried with his dead daughter, only to uncover a truth more haunting than loss itself. But before we start the video, let us know where you're watching this video. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe, Story Storer, and please share your thoughts about this story in comment section. The storm hit Manhattan hard that night, wind lashing, rain slicing through the air like glass. Billionaire Caspian Vale, wrapped in a black overcoat, stepped out of his limousine onto the slick pavement of Fifth Avenue. His security detail opened umbrellas, but he barely noticed. His mind was on the charity gala awaiting him at the Crystal Summit Hotel. That was until his eyes caught something that made his breath stop cold. A girl, barefoot, wrapped in a patchwork blanket, crouched beside a steam vent. Just another face among the many forgotten by the city. Until he saw the bracelet. Silver. Slightly tarnished, but unmistakable. Oval-shaped charm. Tiny blue sapphire embedded in the clasp. His family's heirloom. More than that, his daughter Esme's bracelet. The same bracelet that had been buried with her 7 years ago. Caspian stumbled backward, chest tightening, heart slamming against his ribs. He stared, unblinking. The girl kept her head down, wet hair covering her face. But that bracelet, how could she be wearing it? It wasn't a replica. He knew every scratch on it. That bracelet had been placed in Esme's casket with trembling hands on the day she died. "Sir?" his guard asked. "Everything all right?" Caspian didn't answer. He stepped toward the girl, voice low and shaky. "Where did you get that?" She looked up, eyes wide, face smudged with dirt, and in a blink she ran. Darted into the crowd like a shadow, swallowed by night. "Stop her!" Caspian yelled, but it was too late. She was gone. All that remained was the memory of a bracelet that should have stayed buried, and the haunting question echoing in Caspian's soul. Was his daughter truly dead, or had she never been in that coffin at all? Caspian pushed through the crowd, rain soaking his coat, eyes scanning desperately for the girl. But she was gone, vanished into the city like smoke in a storm. His security team fanned out, radios buzzing, but it was useless. New York swallowed people like that every day. He stood motionless, heart still thudding, soaked to the bone yet burning inside. That bracelet. It wasn't just a piece of silver, it was proof of something impossible. Back in his car, Caspian stared blankly through the window. His driver glanced at him in the mirror. "Should we head to the hotel, sir?" "No," Caspian whispered. "Take me home." As the city blurred past, memories flooded in. Esme's giggle, her tiny wrist as he clasped the bracelet, the smell of smoke the night the fire took her. The authorities never found much. The flames were too strong. He was told there was nothing left to identify, just a small body, assumed to be hers. But now, how could that same bracelet be on a stranger's wrist 7 years later? Was it stolen from the grave? Was she alive? Or was there someone else buried in that coffin? Caspian didn't know what disturbed him more, the idea of being wrong about her death, or the terrifying possibility that someone had wanted him to believe it. By morning, Caspian hadn't slept. He sat in his study, the bracelet's image etched into his mind like a scar. He couldn't shake it, not just because it was Esme's, but because of one tiny detail, a crack on the side of the sapphire. He remembered how she cried the day she'd dropped it on the marble floor of his office. They'd tried to fix it, but the scar remained. That same mark was on the bracelet the homeless girl had worn. This wasn't a copy, it was hers. He made a decision. By noon, he was at Hollow Pine Cemetery, standing in front of Esme's grave. The marble headstone read, Esme Vale, 2007 to 2018 beloved daughter taken too soon. The groundskeeper hesitated as Caspian demanded the casket be exhumed. Mr. Vale, are you sure? I buried my daughter here, Caspian said quietly. I need to know who I buried. 2 hours later, as the casket rose from the earth, Caspian's hands trembled. The lid creaked open. The body inside was dust and bone, but there was no bracelet. Nothing on the wrist, nothing at all. Caspian's stomach twisted. Either the bracelet had been stolen, or Esme had never been buried here at all. Then something caught his eye. A small strip of fabric beneath the skeleton. Torn, faded pink. He reached in and pulled it out. It wasn't just cloth, it was part of Esme's favorite stuffed bear, the one she always slept with. Burned around the edges, but whole, and stitched inside it, something no stranger could have known, her nickname, Ezzy. Caspian sat in the back of his car, gripping the charred bear fragment like a lifeline. The nickname, stitched inside, Ezzy, wasn't public knowledge. Only he and a few close people had ever called her that. This wasn't coincidence, this was personal. He called someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Margot Pierce, he said when the voice on the other end answered. A long pause, then a sharp breath. Caspian, why are you calling me? You were the nurse on duty that night, the fire, Esme's body, you confirmed it. She went quiet. I need the truth now, Margot. Did you see her? Did you really identify my daughter? The silence stretched until she finally whispered, I wanted to tell you, but they made it look official. We weren't allowed to question it. They? Caspian's voice sharpened. There were people there that night, men in dark suits. They took over. We never processed the body ourselves. I thought you knew. His blood turned to ice. You're saying the remains weren't verified? I'm saying, she said softly, you might have buried the wrong child. Caspian's heart pounded. And I think, Margot added before hanging up, that little girl you saw last night, she wasn't just wearing Esme's bracelet, she is Esme. Caspian wasted no time. That night, he summoned his head of security, Dane Mercer, to the surveillance room in his penthouse. Pull all camera feeds from Fifth Avenue, the exact time I saw the girl. Dane nodded, already tapping on his tablet. Minutes later, grainy footage flickered on the massive screen. The street, the rain, the figures moving quickly under umbrellas. And then, there she was, the homeless girl. Blanket wrapped around her shoulders, head down, bare feet. There, Caspian pointed. Pause. They zoomed in. The bracelet gleamed faintly under the street lamp. There was no mistake, but then Dane frowned. There's someone else. Behind her, partially hidden by a lamppost, a man in a hooded coat, standing unnaturally still, watching her. Then, as she darted off, he followed. Caspian leaned in. Can you get his face? Dane adjusted the angle. As the man turned slightly, the camera caught a glimpse. Just enough. A faded scar across his cheek. Cold, lifeless eyes. Caspian froze. I've seen him before. Dane looked surprised. You have? Caspian nodded slowly. He worked security at the hospital 7 years ago, the night of the fire. Suddenly, things began to connect. Someone had followed the girl, someone who might have taken Esme that night. The bracelet, the missing body, the cover-up. Caspian's heart thundered. This wasn't just about loss anymore, it was about a stolen life, and someone who didn't want her found. Caspian knew he needed help outside the law. The man with the scar was part of something deeper, something hidden. He turned to someone he once trusted with his life. Silas Vaughan, a former intelligence analyst turned reclusive hacker. He found Silas living in a cluttered trailer beneath the Raventon Bridge, surrounded by outdated monitors and half-eaten ramen. "I need to find a girl," Caspian said, "and the man who's following her." Silas raised a brow. "That's vague." "She was declared dead 7 years ago, but she's alive. Someone's been hiding her." Silas leaned forward. "Now, that is interesting." Caspian handed over the still frame of the man with the scar. Silas scanned it through facial recognition software, tapping furiously. A minute passed. "He's not in any public database," Silas muttered. "But," he paused, squinting. "Wait, he matches a profile from a classified list. A defunct private syndicate called Orion Shield. Off the books. They did off-grid operations, including forced disappearances." Caspian's chest tightened. "You're saying this was deliberate?" Silas looked at him grimly. "Someone didn't want Esme growing up as your daughter. They wanted her erased." Then Silas showed him something strange. A code etched into the bracelet's silver clasp, only visible under infrared. Numbers, coordinates, a location. Caspian leaned in. It pointed to an abandoned orphanage just outside the city, where secrets, perhaps even Esme, were waiting. Rain pounded the windshield as Caspian's car turned onto a dirt road choked with weeds. The orphanage wasn't on any modern map. It was long abandoned, swallowed by time and trees. But the coordinates etched on Esme's bracelet led him straight to it. The sign at the rusted gate read, "Saint. Halora's Home for Forgotten Children. Closed 2010. Caspian pushed open the gate. The hinges groaned like they hadn't moved in years. Inside, the building loomed, its windows boarded, its bricks cracked. But the air felt wrong. Recently disturbed. Dane had insisted on coming with him. Gun drawn, flashlight sweeping side to side. "Place gives me the creeps," he muttered. They stepped inside. Dust covered everything, except for footprints in the grime. Small footprints, a child's. Following them, Caspian entered what once was a dormitory, and there, taped to the wall, were drawings. Crude, but unmistakable. A tall man in a suit, a little girl, a bear, a bracelet. His heart stopped. "Sir," Dane called from the hallway, "you'll want to see this." Caspian followed and found a room lined with old files and name tags. Most were blank, except one. Esme V. And beneath her name, scribbled in a child's handwriting. "They said he wasn't my real dad, but I remember him. I remember his voice." Caspian's hands trembled. She had been here, locked away, lied to, but why? And where was she now? A door creaked open behind them, and a girl's voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Caspian spun around, heart pounding. A thin girl stood in the shadows, wrapped in an oversized coat, her eyes wide and cautious. Her face was smudged, hair tangled, but her features, those soft green eyes, were unmistakable. Esme. His breath caught. His knees nearly buckled. "Esme?" he whispered. The girl stepped back. "You shouldn't have come. They'll be angry." "Who?" Caspian stepped forward gently. "I'm your father." She blinked, confused. "No. They said my real dad died, in the fire." His voice cracked. "That's what they wanted you to believe." Behind them, Dane moved cautiously, watching the hallway. "We're not alone." Esme turned toward a panel in the wall and tugged it open. Behind it, a hidden staircase, narrow and dark. "They'll come back soon," she said. "They keep others downstairs. Kids." Caspian's heart twisted. "They kept you here all these years?" She nodded. They said I had to forget everything. Every time I remembered you, they locked me away. Caspian clenched his fists. He couldn't let her suffer another second. "Can you walk?" he asked. Before she could answer, a loud clatter echoed from below. Footsteps, voices. Dane raised his gun. "They're here." Esme's eyes filled with panic. "If they catch you, they'll take you too, like the others." Caspian looked at her, his daughter, alive, terrified, and braver than anyone he'd ever known. "Not this time," he said. "I'm not losing you again." They turned toward the staircase and descended into the dark. The staircase creaked with every step, the air below growing colder. Caspian held Esme's hand tightly, her fingers trembling in his. At the bottom, a narrow hallway stretched ahead, dimly lit by a flickering bulb. Doors lined the walls, some sealed, others slightly ajar. Then came the sound. A soft sob, a cough, a child's whimper. Esme pointed. "They're in there." Caspian pushed open the nearest door. Inside were 4 children, no older than 7. Thin, pale, frightened. One had a bandaged arm, another clutched a broken toy. Their eyes widened when they saw Caspian. "You're not one of them," whispered a boy. "No," Caspian said, voice breaking. "We're getting you out." Dane found a control panel in the hallway, likely used to lock and monitor the rooms. "This place wasn't an orphanage," he muttered. "It was a prison." Suddenly, the light snapped off. A deep voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Put the girl back, Mr. Thorne, or no one leaves." Caspian's blood froze. "They're watching us." Esme clung to him. "That's the man with the scar. He always watches." Then they heard the elevator whir to life at the end of the hall. Dane raised his weapon. "They're coming." Caspian stared down the hallway, his pulse racing. No more running, no more silence. He turned to the children. "Stay behind me." This time, he would fight. The elevator door slammed open. 3 men stepped out, armed, masked, methodical. Caspian pushed the children behind him, shielding Esme. Dane fired first, dropping one of them. The hallway erupted into chaos. Gunfire, shouts, smoke. Caspian tackled the second guard, rage pouring through him. "Where is she supposed to be?" he shouted. "Why did you take my daughter?" The man spat blood, sneering. "She was never yours." "She was promised." Before Caspian could respond, the last man raised his weapon toward Esme. A shot rang out. He dropped, lifeless. Esme holding Dane's backup gun, hands shaking. Silence fell. Caspian rushed to her. She was crying, but she stood firm. "He was going to hurt you." Footsteps echoed again, one slow, deliberate. A figure stepped from the shadows. The man with the scar. Caspian froze. "You ruined everything," the man said coldly. Esme's bloodline wasn't meant for the world. She was meant to disappear. "Why?" Caspian demanded. "Who are you?" The man smiled grimly. "You'll understand soon." Suddenly, gas hissed from the vents. A sedative. Dane shouted, "Masks on!" Caspian grabbed one for Esme, but the children began collapsing around them. Eyes blurry, strength fading, Caspian fought to stay up. But the last thing he saw was Esme being pulled away again, into the shadows. Caspian awoke in a sterile, white room. His head pounded. Dane was slumped nearby, barely conscious. "Esme," Caspian groaned. A voice answered. "She's alive." He turned sharply. A woman in a gray lab coat stepped forward. Her eyes were cold, clinical. "I'm Dr. Varel. Esme isn't just your daughter. She's the last of something powerful." "What are you talking about?" he demanded. "She was part of Project Halora, a genetic program that began decades ago, funded by people like you, Mr. Thorne. She carries something unique, something that can't fall into public hands. Caspian's heart raced. She's a child. She's my child. She was chosen before you ever knew her. He lunged, but guards restrained him. On a monitor, he saw Esme strapped to a chair, terrified. The scarred man appeared beside her. "It's time," he told the doctor. "Activate the sequence." Caspian shouted, "No!" Then Esme screamed, not in fear but in rage, and something impossible happened. The lights exploded, monitors cracked. Guards dropped their weapons, gasping in pain, as if their minds were under attack. Esme's eyes glowed faintly, and the restraints snapped open on their own. The monitor went dark. Dr. Varel stumbled back. She wasn't supposed to awaken. Caspian broke free, fury blazing in his chest. "My daughter isn't an experiment," he growled. "She's a storm." The facility shook violently as alarms screamed overhead. Caspian tore through the corridors, dodging sparks and crumbling walls. "Esme," he called. He found her in the observation chamber, standing alone amid the wreckage. Her hair whipped around her face, eyes still glowing. But as soon as she saw him, the glow dimmed. "Dad," she whispered. He rushed to her and pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry," she said, crying. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone, it just happened." "You didn't do this, sweetheart," Caspian said softly. "They did. You only survived it." Behind them, Dr. Varel and the scarred man staggered into the room, wounded. "If she walks out of here," Varel rasped, "you'll never be able to protect her. Every nation will come for her." Caspian turned. "Then let them come." He grabbed Esme's hand and ran. Dane appeared, bloody but alive, guiding them to an emergency exit. As they emerged into the night, the facility erupted behind them in flames and smoke. Gone. Days later, far from the city, in a quiet cabin surrounded by trees, Caspian watched Esme draw by the fireplace, smiling for the first time. He still didn't have all the answers, but he had her, and that was enough. Because sometimes family isn't defined by blood, but by how far you're willing to go to protect it. The storm was over, or just beginning.